the basis for spaceships except for conveyance to escape the matrix. No, but it's more than you've seen it do. I promise you that my bars is rap genius proof, and I'd rather take the scenic route. I'm not the type that you see in groups.
Okay, welcome back to Hold This Mic. It is August the 22nd, 2017, and as usual, we're here in Southwest Philadelphia, home of Akil, Vix, and myself. And also with us is
Jeremiah Scalia.
Jeremiah is departing for China tomorrow, going back to his teaching post at which university?
Wenzhou Kane University.
And we bid him farewell, but he'll be back, we hope, to do more of these. Or we'll Skype him in the future. So
yeah, right on.
And so Akil has a question he'd like to ask Jeremiah and I.
So, Trump gave a speech on the plan for Afghanistan. It's not much of a plan other than we're going to kill terrorists and not tell them that we're coming to kill them. And then we're not going to be doing nation building anymore, which you weren't really doing much nation building anyway. But in a broader sense, I guess I want to get your guys' take on what do you think the lasting effects of the Trump presidency is going to be on an international scale, all right? So, we got 2 wars that he's supposedly trying to prosecute. You got relationships with Pakistan, nuclear state. You got the whole brouhaha of North Korea. Do you think that any of this is going to last? Is he going to make a move that we're going to be dealing with the effects of? We're going to be dealing with the effects of the move that he made for years to come.
We're going to be dealing with the effects of his, definitely internationally, for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think for foreign policy, I think we're already seeing it. And like in China, for example, I've got some friends that are in Hong Kong, and China has been making moves with political influence into Hong Kong for a while now, in the past decade, and it's been steadily increasing. Like Beijing's influence has been steadily increasing in Hong Kong, and now Mandarin is mandatory in the schools there.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So the Cantonese, the Hong Kongers are, not so pleased about that, but it's been steadily stepping up, and I think with Trump getting into office and with the Brexit, all this in the past 2 years that's occurred, that China is more emboldened because they see the West kind of eating itself in a sense. And they also see Trump, who is basically turning a blind eye to humanitarian issues, who's saying nice things about, your Putins and, even Duterte in the Philippines,
Christ,
and Erdogan in Turkey. So you have these, sort of authoritarian
Bond
people.
villains.
What's that?
Bond villains.
Yeah, exactly. And so, in China, they are able to exert their influence. This has encouraged them so much. They've been pushing even harder into Hong Kong, and Hong Kong doesn't have this Western defense bulwark that they used to have as much from the UK and from the US. That used to be a deterrent to Beijing to be messing with Hong Kong or Taiwan or Tibet to some degree. They're still trying, but now they're like, oh yeah, let's let Trump create chaos over there, and we're going to just exert our influence throughout Asia and also Africa and the world into more dominant Chinese force.
Right. I mean, they are also celebrating because Trump, by executive order, I think, dismantled the U.S. involvement in the TransPacific Partnership, which, of course, was a policy that both on the right and the left, a lot of people didn't like. But in terms of power and economic influence, commerce, et cetera, trade, it was absolutely essential to the United States keeping its kind of branches out across the Pacific in, Canada, throughout South America on the Pacific Rim, throughout, Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, Japan, so on. And Trump pulling out of that had this immediate overnight effect, which was that China just started drafting a whole trade agreement with those nations itself. So China was not included in the original Trans-Pacific Partnership,
right?
And now China is the guarantor of that, or I don't know the guarantor, but it's the country that's drafting and enacting and leading nations in a new trade deal. So that's just a huge. I mean, geopolitically, that's like an enormous swing, and it takes power out, of course, away from the U.S. And hands it over to China, which
they're filling that vacuum.
Yeah, they're happy to step up and take that over.
I'm not that mad about it, though.
No.
I mean, I don't mean it's gonna sound a little weird, but I mean, I was one of those people on the left who thought that the TPP was a terrible deal, because mostly it was corporations using the threat of Chinese supremacy in order to basically enshrine the oligarchy, right? We didn't know much about the TPP, but the stuff that leaked out was ridiculously bad. I'm talking like basically international corporations could usurp law in different countries.
Well, that's what those trade agreements are all about.
In a way that, let's say BP, a British petroleum company, starts dumping, coal, toxic waste in your American stream. And you're like, whoa, wait, I thought the EPA had rules against this. Then BP goes to an independent tribunal to weigh on this between your little state and BP. BP picks the members of the tribunal, pays them, and then I don't know who they're going to rule. I don't know what side they're going to pick, but you know what side they're going to pick. And those companies were like, hey, you guys don't want China to be number one.
But are you sure that was from the agreement, or that sounds like something out of like a ultra left episode of Captain Planet? Come on,
that was leaks from Democratic.
But was that was legit leaks?
Yeah, that was leaks from Democratic senators who actually were able to see it. They couldn't they couldn't go out and talk about it, but they leaked about it because it freaked them out that much that the stuff was in the TPP.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess there's no surprise then, because the people writing the laws are the oligarchs themselves, and the people who want the most benefit out of it and stand to gain the most are people who own companies and who are talking about shipping, huge amounts of goods overseas or receiving goods from overseas.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I think if you want to beat China, and I know this is never going to happen during Trump and the Republican presidency, if you want to beat China, you don't need a trade agreement. You need to steal renewable energy from them. You need to get on that.
Yeah, it's too late.
I know. I mean, what do you like?
I mean, I think I agree with that.
But is it too late though?
For us to
steal renewable energy. They've already surpassed us in renewable energy.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we're with Trump at the helm.
It's not too late.
We're not
considering our situation.
And there's no impetus there's no political calculus that's going to get us to try to catch up with them in that regard. Anyway, so
I did hear a story this morning on NPR about there's actual American solar panel manufacturers are trying to get the Trump administration to start putting tariffs on importing solar panels from China because they can't compete with the Chinese price. But then the solar installers are now worried that
that'll mean
higher prices for them.
Yeah, less work for them. Higher prices.
Yeah,
that's pretty sick to. Right. I mean, what needs to happen is that internationally there needs to be an agreement that all renewable energy will be heavily subsidized by an international, by the UN or whatever body would be subsidizing
weakening UN.
By the, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if it's
by Britain after they Brexited. I don't know.
We don't need the international community. I mean, like America itself, we subsidized the oil industry when it was a burgeoning industry because it was really expensive to drill for oil at once upon a time, and people weren't making money doing it, and we subsidized oil because of the Industrial Revolution. We could do the same with the renewable.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of survival for the whole planet, whether we do or not, and we're not doing it, and it's pretty insane. I mean, even the Paris climate talks, which we participated in and agreed to under Obama, Trump, campaigned on his vow to withdraw from the Paris Climate Accords, and that's just what he did. He executive ordered his way out of, I think not all aspects of the climate.
Well, he can't.
It was so the companies were all prepared.
Right.
Like companies were. Had changed their infrastructure to meet the demands of the climate accord and so on, but Trump just slashed it. And the fact is that the Paris Climate Accords, most climate scientists agreed, would not be enough anyway.
No, it wasn't enough.
And as in we're gonna have fucked up problems even if everyone meets these agreements to a T, which they knew that the likelihood of that happening was very low anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in countries like India and China, where growth is still a really big deal, and they are going to be, everyone's going to be getting a car in India before too long. That's just, if it's not from an electric renewable source of electricity car, that's like a dagger in the side of the world. I mean, not that it's India's fault, but
No, but it goes back to what you're saying about the international community. If the international community got together and said, "Hey, India, cut that shit out. We got you. We got a whole bunch of renewable stuff over here.
Renewable. Right. We're gonna pipe in 1 trillion kilowatts of power to and we're gonna help you build electric refilling stations, and we're committed to all your cars being renewable electric. Then if there are steps like that being taken, we have a chance.
Right.
But no steps are being taken, at least in this country. Or they're private industry, look at how we put up 100 solar panels in Nevada, and it's lighting up half of Las Vegas or whatever. Who gives a shit? That's a drop in the bucket,
Yeah.
And
I don't understand why we need Nevada, right? Can we just cover the whole thing in solar panels?
Can we bulldoze over Nevada?
Can we just flatten the whole thing, just cover it in solar panels and be done with it? That would power the rest of the country. We just took Nevada and Arizona. Do we need Arizona? Retire.
Mexico's cool.
Yeah, Mexico. No, I mean, they're sovereign. But I mean, we already have Florida for retirees. We don't need another place for people to go to retire.
Yeah.
Just solar panels.
Arizona. Yeah. Wow, it's a really radical view you got there, Akil.
Man, I got a question though. What do you think? Beyond Trump's he's backing out of the Paris Accords. What is there a political? Is there a strategic agenda behind that, or do you see this just
as
him
sort of being angry at liberals? That's what it is.
But you don't see any puppet master anything behind this that
oil companies.
It starts with the
Rex
companies,
Tillerson.
Right? It starts with.
Although he's more
oligarchs,
environmentalist than Trump is.
Well,
Rosneft, Exxon.
Yeah.
Over into.
It's been the last 21 years, I would say, since Clinton, where you've got, these oligarchical type companies, these big energy companies, telling the masses that, like, oh no, all this stuff is fake, blah, 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 don't believe it, whatever. Da, da, da. The Republicans stoke that because they can say that, oh, hey, liberals don't want you to have your gas guzzling car. They think you're stupid for that.
They don't want you to have your like Ford F550.
Right. Like, this is all just this big liberal plot. So come vote for us and we'll defend your whatever. And then finally you get all the way back up to now, and then Trump just straight out says it, that global warming is a hoax. But it's not like he was the first one to say it. There's, who was it on the floor?
Plus, people desperately...
Snowball.
The worst part is, like...
This guy came on the floor of the house with a snowball. It was snowing that day. It's like, I got a snowball. Right. Global warming must not be happening.
Right. Yeah, it's
political stunts.
Yeah.
What a moron. Well, and also, Trump saying, that climate change is a hoax. It's just, oh God, it's like the worst. It's the worst kind of lie. I mean, it's like a lie on the magnitude of a planet that's inhabited by over 6 billion people.
Yeah.
That like is threatened with like potentially worldwide cataclysmic events.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not going to change until like we lose Manhattan. Like, it's going to take something.
Well, that's
no, but by then it's way, way, way too late.
That's the problem.
Right.
You can't reverse it.
But that is probably the pessimistic, realist view, is that we will finally unify around the world when it's too late.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens with humans. Like, calamities must occur before we make adjustments. Only this time with climate, it's the Earth.
And people don't care about things until it affects them directly. Like the reason why Vietnam brought out such huge numbers of protesters and huge resistance, and the war in Iraq, which was this like war in Iraq 2, which was like a travesty of worse magnitude than Vietnam, almost. You heard people on the left who knew, protest and be angry, but the population as a whole was quiet. Why? Because it did not affect them directly.
No draft.
There was no draft.
Right.
There was no draft. It didn't have to bother them.
Yeah.
They could just go on about their lives, and they're like, oh yeah, the war's still going on. Okay, cool. Let's go to the fucking.
I think Real Housewives of like Orlando's on.
Right. Which of course in Vietnam wasn't the case.
Yeah.
In Vietnam,
people became engaged because everybody knew somebody.
Everybody had a number.
Was going over there and dying.
Every male had a number.
Yeah.
And if your number was called, like that was it. You were up. Like you were going to go have a significant probability that you would get like either really badly hurt or killed.
And then look at why don't we have a TV show about the Iraq and Afghanistan wars? We had like MASH, right? That's how burned that war was into our conscious, that we had to create this like brilliant comedy drama about, stupid wars and all that stuff. And like we have an equally dumbass war going on, 2 dumbass wars going on right now.
Right. And Afghanistan, to kind of bring it full circle, Jared, I don't know if you have to go, but
yes. Pretty short.
I read this book about Afghanistan, and you guys probably know this, but the U.S. fought a proxy war with Russia by arming the Taliban in Afghanistan, who were a tribal group in like the north west of the country, and the Soviets like gave everything they had to take this bit of Afghanistan for themselves. And some people say it brought it was the beginning of the end of the Soviet Empire.
Oh, it totally broke.
That it just drained them militarily, morally, and so on.
Economically.
Because these fighters in Afghanistan did not give up. They had weapons, and they just knew how to drain the Soviets. And now the tables have turned, and they have been turned for 13 years or however long we've been fighting in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And it is draining us.
Yeah.
And, you know, this, in terms of nation building, I think we had our lesson in Iraq with nation building as a completely preposterous, like, way to start thinking about how to, you know, create the outcome you want in a country. To, like, build a new nation from the outside.
Right.
Having mostly being totally ignorant to what is going on within that country, culturally, you know, and politically and so on. Although with some generals and some experts like telling you, well, you got to watch out for the Shia once the Sunnis are, you know, kicked out of power because, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's a history there.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't just, I mean, you can't build a nation based on what you want as an empire like the U.S. because it's not just because people in Iraq or Afghanistan are like, no, fuck you, I don't want you building my nation. It's because that's just like in itself like a totally impossible task to me.
We're invaders there. You know?
Right.
They don't know us. They don't care about us. They don't know about the American way. They don't know about 9/11. They don't know why
they don't
the fuck
care
we're
how
here.
much soldiers are getting paid by the U.S. Like,
you know, and it was on Pod Save America, a great podcast, that one of the hosts mentioned. You know, in 2 years, we're going to be sending soldiers to Iraq and Afghanistan who weren't alive during 9/11.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's telling right there.
It's bad.
So, I mean,
it's crazy.
You know, so, look, I think this is a good place to end it. Yeah. We all agree with Trump. Nation building is bad. Make Afghanistan great again. Right?
Right.
Right on.
Well, yeah. All right, yeah, thanks for that question, and thanks.
And thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's not over till everyone's thanked each other 5 or 6 times.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
We'll skip
keep
that
it going, guys.
Keep it rocking. Bye, Jer. Have a great time in China.
Thank you. 谢谢.
No, this is just hallucination.